Right. This is it. Welcome to this recent episode of the Sales Confidence Podcast. I'm your host, James Ski, the CEO and founder of Sales Confidence. Our vision is to build the world's most valuable B2B sales community, and we help salespeople and sales leaders at each stage of their career with their mindset, well-being, and performance. And we deliver that via our events series, and also support salespeople and sales leaders via our learning and development subscription. I'm very excited today to have Paul Gibson, who has been leading the business at Demandbase for 9 years. Demandbase has been a fantastic partner for us over the last year, and we continue to help educate the market on how Demandbase is supporting B2B companies target, identify, and sell their services and products to in a more effective way. And I'm looking forward to learning more about Paul's personal story, his journey as a sales leader and in the sales profession, and also what Demandbase are bringing to this market. Paul, how you doing?
Thanks, James. Great to be here. Excited. We've talked about doing this for a while,
I'm
really pleased we've got it underway now. Looking forward to this.
I'm glad as well. Just to acknowledge, because it's not always the case, one of the things I really do appreciate about you is your enthusiasm and energy that you bring to the table and the events. I like to think I do the same, and it is a bit of a rare trait. So maybe we can delve into where that energy enthusiasm comes from. Just to kick off the conversation, the first question I'd just like to ask is, what are you excited about today?
Apart from this, because that's the obvious answer.
Of course, this is the highlight.
Yeah, one of the things that's exciting me at the moment is getting out and about.
Yeah,
I think we all went through the COVID thing, and so recently you've done a few events and days like today, and I'm doing a LinkedIn Live later, and it's just that ability to get out there and meet people again and say face to face. When Zoom started and all these other things came around, it was like, oh, this is exciting. This is new. I can't think of anything worse now than a day of Zoom meetings. So I suppose that amongst everything else excites me.
That's great. And I totally agree. It's almost like reinvigorated being back in person again, isn't it? It's just like you just a feel-good factor.
Absolutely.
Just reminds you that it's just good to do. And also, relationships matter, and it's good to do business in person. What's the first thing typically you think about when you wake up in the morning?
Well, at my age, just waking up in the morning is a positive, as you can understand. But I always get the wake up first thing in the morning. What am I doing today? Type thing, and what meetings I've got, where the numbers are. That's an obvious thing, but. I also just get excited about how can we take that meeting and make it fun? Because hopefully over these 45 minutes you'll get a bit of it, but if it's not fun, there's no point doing it. So I always try and look at, what am I doing today? What am I going to eat today? That's a big thing for me. So they're the main things. But yeah, it's always first thing I wake up, what does my day hold today?
Good stuff. Considering, you've had a very strong career.
You meant to say long career.
Strong. See, I corrected myself. Thinking about back some time, think about the early stages of your career. Where did your inspiration and motivation come to pursue a career in sales? Where did that come from?
That's a great question. So two answers there. The old-fashioned one, but actually as true as my dad. My dad was a salesman at heart, and he taught me lots of stuff around traits like it's not talking, it's listening that matters, son, and things like that, which I really took to heart. But actually, when I was younger, I was going to be a cartoonist.
Wow.
Last thing I was ever going to do was work in an office in a suit. And my first job was a graduate training scheme at Barclays Bank. I spent 4 years going through futures and investments and securities and everything you can think of in the bank. At the end of the 4 years, I thought, what have I missed out on? Oh, this thing called sales. And I started that after Barclays Bank. Actually, one of the first lessons I learned in sales was I went to my manager and said, what can I do sales-wise in Barclays Bank? And he said, we've got an offshoot called Mercantile Credit. Showing me age here. Mercantile Credit does finance and things for cars and printing presses and everything. Go and talk to them. And I talked to them, had 3 interviews. At the last interview, they said to me, congratulations, you've got the job. We'll send out the contracts. And we're so much better than Lombard. Never heard of Lombard. So investigated Lombard, interviewed with them and joined them instead. So that was my first lesson in sales. Don't bring up the competition unless the other people do. But yeah, so that's what got me into sales, and I haven't looked back.
That's pretty savvy. Thinking on your feet at that stage of your career and creating that opportunity. I like that. So bearing in mind that your father was in sales as well, is that where you kind of observed his skill set, or even before Barclays, was there other interactions that you had with salespeople? Can you think about that first interaction or experience of a sales process for you?
Honestly, I probably didn't have any sales experience or process until my first day at Lombard. I walked in and met the MD. Obviously, I met him through the process, but sat down and he said, right, first sales lesson, sell me this book. And it was almost like the pen thing from Wolf of Wall Street, whatever the guy's name, can't remember his name.
Jordan Belfort.
Yes. But he said, sell me that book. He said, you got 1 minute to look at it and then sell me it. And it was a blue book, and it had no lines in it. The paperwork seemed quite good quality. He said, ready? I said, yeah, good. You haven't told me how much it costs. He said, make up a number. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I then spent the next minute talking about the quality of the cover. It would last forever. It's that particular blue because psychologically that helps your mind stimulate stuff. And it's left open. There's no lines because people write differently. Do you want to buy this book? Just, no. I said, can I ask why? He said, I wanted a red one with lines. I said, well, how am I supposed to know that? He said, ask me. And that was my first lesson in sales. It's all about understanding what the customer wants. So it's a really simple one, but it worked really well.
Absolutely. So. That's a great analogy as well. And it simply highlight, I think, we get all levels of experience listening into these conversations, and that ability to be curious fundamentally for me, as a sales professional, is just a foundational skill. And I think as we're younger, even when I look at my young children around the ages of 10, very, very curious. But I think as you start to become a teenager, and I do think people can lose that curiosity and interest in exploring, and that's just such a fundamental aspect of the sales process, isn't it?
And there was a big shift in my selling capability, actually. I was at Microsoft for 4 years, which was a great experience. And there was a guy there, I'll shout him out, a guy called Dave Knorr. And he taught me how to present in front of customers. And so I'd stand up and do my presentations. And he had this thing, and he'd just do that with his hand, which basically meant, so what? But I didn't know that when I started. I started presenting, he'd do that. And I said, why are you doing that? He said, so what? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, what does that mean to me? I don't care what you do. What are you doing for me? And it really stuck with me. So, and if you ever speak to any of my sales team, SDRs or the GADs or the actual new business team, their whole process is understanding what the customer wants before they tell them what we do, because otherwise it makes no sense. So.
I agree. Yeah. And just being able to frame the proposition, make sure you're landing with the right hooks, the messaging, it's absolutely critical. Considering you just mentioned Microsoft, you've gone through different phases of your career. And now you're leading a region with a very successful global business in Demandbase. What do you think it is about your leadership style that's allowed you to kind of evolve and continue to develop and be successful in leading and building high performance sales teams?
That's a great question. I think my background, I always honed in on the successful people in the business. Yeah. If there was someone, they always win the league tables, I'd go and sit with them, and I'd want to go out with them, and I want to learn from them and pitch practice to them. So I think that is an important thing. And I've tried to take that through. So if my attitude is I'm not a micromanager. I hire people because they can do the job. Yeah. My job is to support them and make sure they get everything they need to do the job. So when they come to me, my team now, they don't come to me and say, I've got this problem, how could I fix it? They come to me and say, I've got this problem and I'm thinking I'm going to do this, this and this. What do you reckon? Which is a much better way of doing it, right? And sometimes I'll tweak it. Sometimes I'll say absolutely perfect. Or sometimes I'll go, what if they say this? How do you react? So I'm very much, if I was in their shoes and I was asking that question, I try and play devil's advocate. What would the other person say that might throw me off? And then try and think about that. So I don't know. I try and make life fun. I try and motivate people. awful thing to say, and I don't mean it as a don't bother selling stuff, but if for whatever reason we didn't win that deal, they're not chopping your legs off. They're not taking your kids away from you. You go and find the next deal and just learn from it. So I think, yes, I want all my salespeople to be 100% focused. They've got to hit those numbers, and they do, but I don't want them doing it to the point of making themselves ill and stressing and not sleeping, etc. So
Good.
I suppose it's quite a relaxed style, but they know they've got to hit their numbers still.
Yeah, it's good. It can be a tricky balance, I guess, when you're high expectations, but you kind of do it with a smile, and you want to create a culture where people feel comfortable and that they can have a good time. So where does that like that genuine energy and enthusiasm, because it is a gift in my opinion, not everybody has it, and you clearly have it in abundance. So like you show up, you've always got energy, you're very smiley, there's a lot of likability there. Is that something, is that a family trait? Is that something that you've like evolved, worked on?
No, the rest of my family are horrible. No, it is. I think it goes back to that adage, it's got to be fun. Yeah. And I think you're only here once. It's the old YOLO thing, you only live once, so make the most of it. It's just the way I live everything, whether it's work, at home life, whatever it is. It's just got to be fun. And if it's not, don't do it. Go and find something that is.
So really for you, it's a state of mind.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So do you think people can choose to have more fun in their work life?
Not everyone's the same. And you have to, one of the skills of sales is you have to read the room and you have to read the people. I can't always go in jolly Gibson because people are having a hard time. Maybe they're different personalities. The first systems I was selling were financial systems. Selling to an accountant is a very different proposition to selling to a marketer or a salesperson. So you have to be different. And my team, I think one of the skills in building a team is making sure that they complement each other and they work well together. And the best thing I'd say about my team is they're all a bunch of really nice people who want to help each other. So if it's a case of someone struggling on a deal, someone else knows how to fix that problem. There are no questions asked. They'll jump in and do that. And I think that's a really important trait. So yeah, I like to be fun and I like to enjoy stuff, but also I can be serious when I need to be. Yep. It's a business we're running at the end of the day. We're not in a school playground.
No,
so
of course.
It's getting that mix right is the challenge.
Very good. And just to delve into that then a little bit more before we learn exactly what Demandbase is and how it helps people and companies, what are the type of people you generally look to hire and identify to bring into your teams?
It's interesting because you had one of your sales conferences not long ago. You had a lady speak, the rower. I can't remember her name. I'm terrible with names, which is awful. And
just put me on the spot.
Put you on the spot now. You invited her, so you're in worse position than me. But anyway, one of the things she said was, she doesn't look at a CV. You have to look at a CV in my role because you've got to make some choices. Otherwise, you could get 1,000 people in for interviews. But for me, it's all around the personality of that person. Are they inquisitive? Are they interested in what we do and why we do it and how it helps? Because actually, as you say, we'll probably talk about it a bit later. I'm enthused 9 years in because I still see that what we do is really beneficial for businesses. And I know I can walk into a business and if they've got 1 of 10 pains, we can fix it. If they've got 15, we have a way of solving problems and that's brilliant. I'm not going in there and selling an ERP system or a CRM system where there's 15 of them out there who do exactly the same thing, but one's got a nicer interface or whatever. This is something that's game-changing for most businesses. So it's interesting. But I want people who feel the same. So part of my interview process is obviously they've got to be articulate and they've got to be smart. I don't hire what you probably class as an out-and-out aggressive salesperson. I won't do it. I want people who are seen as consultative. So when they go into a client, the client actually sits and, these people generally want to help me. So it's very much around that. And it's only a recent thing I've done, but I've started asking what football team they support. Male or female, doesn't matter. They normally have an alliance to someone because I've hired far too many Arsenal fans recently.
So you're overwhelmed with Arsenal fans. Does that mean if someone right now is applying to be in your team and an Arsenal fan, you're just going to reduce their chances.
Not a hope in hell of getting a job. No, of course not. No. But it isn't amazing that it's just something that we always pull each other's legs about it. And I've never asked in an interview before, what's your football team? But I will now.
Now you need to kind of put that criteria into your questions.
Well, now Arsenal are doing well. It didn't matter before, but
my son's an Arsenal fan. So what? Let's understand a little bit more about this technology and this platform, this business, Demandbase, that, as you say, still infuses you after 9 business. Can you just give us the fundamentals in terms of the value proposition?
Yeah. I can never bring it into one sentence, as you well know. But in essence, there's a lot of wastage out there in most B2B businesses. They chase after companies that they can never actually sell to. So they'll advertise to someone who's not even in their industry, and it's not anyone that can sell to. And maybe someone will click on that ad from the wrong company. They'll go to their website, so it looks like an increasing traffic. But it's not really, because it's not anyone they can sell to. It's just a waste of traffic. But that might end up in pipeline and sales go off and chase it. Well, that's no good, because it's not someone that they can close. Yeah. But actually, if they're a brilliant salesperson, they might close it. And then that ends up as a client that the post-sales team can never show value in, and it churns at the end of the year. So a long way of saying the idea of Demandbase is we give you insight on those companies that you should focus on, if and how they're in market, if and how they're engaging with your brand, and then enable you to focus on those companies, reach out, just get those companies engaging with you into pipeline, converting and closing, because everything else is a waste of time.
Gotcha. So really, one of the things that I didn't necessarily appreciate until we got closer and started to work together in the Demandbase and Sales Confidence Partnership is that it supports the full process from marketeers to sales and customer success. Yeah. Can you just break down how it's valuable for each of those areas of the business?
Yeah. So we're in 2024 planning now. So let's start at the beginning. You need to know where you're going to focus from a sales and marketing perspective. How do you do that? Well, you guess, fingers crossed, hopefully that's the right people to go after. Here's a list of retailers, so let's go after all retailers. Or you use intent. Intent is something that everyone's talking about these days, but intent, if you get it right, allows you to focus on those companies. There are 200 companies that right now we know as a business we can sell to that right now are in market showing buying signals. Brilliant. So that's the intent piece, if you like. But are they engaging with us? Do they know who we are? Have they ever come to our website? Where are they on our buyer journey? That helps you build a strategy of how to interact with them. If there's a company that's never engaged with you before, probably doesn't know who you are, but they showed a buying signal, don't give that to sales. It's way too early. There's no brand trust, there's no recognition, no awareness. You've got to build that side of it. So is that marketing? Yes, it is, but it's also really important for sales, because marketing are then focusing on those companies. When they engage them and drive them to sales to pick it up, it's a company that knows your brand, it understands and trusts you. It thinks you're someone they can work with before sales pick it up. Yeah. And that's a really important part of it. That's where sales come in. And then once you've closed that deal, it's not a case of, we've got that customer, brilliant. What if 3 months before renewal, they're out there exploring one of your competitors and you don't know about it? Well, if you use the intent right, you would know about it. And then you could get in front of it and stop that before it becomes an issue. So it's very much pre-sales, post-sales, marketing, SDRs, sales, customer success. It really is the whole tranche, which is good and bad. It's good because we can solve all those problems, but it's bad in we can't have a scattergun approach. We can do all this. So this is the key of our sales team. Sit with someone and understand, what are your issues today? Oh, right, well, this is how we solve that.
I think, what blows my mind about Demandbase and the magic is the power around this intent data and the insights that you get, undercover almost, before you even act with individuals that you're targeting within your target accounts within the business. You have some insights about where their research time is being spent, what their consideration factors might be. I guess it just makes you much more informed. And then also when you think about empowering the SDR team, they can be much more personalized, relevant and targeted based on their outreach. So that complete journey now that the insights that Demandbase empowers through SDRs, sales, and obviously what marketing are doing from a branding engagement perspective just makes it a much more efficient process.
Absolutely. And in the B2B world, I think we all acknowledge there's probably 10 or 11, maybe more people in that buying committee. If you're lucky as a sales team, you'll know one or two of them. And you can do the best job in the world on those one or two people. But those other people in the buyer committee might be seeing and hearing different things and shut that deal down. So it's really important that you identify that entire buyer committee and your marketing team are able to share the same messages to those anonymous people out there that are doing their research, might be coming to your website, might not, but they'll be doing it anonymously. You've got to make sure that you're giving them the same messages that the salespeople are getting. So when the people sales have sold to go and say, we want to buy this, everyone else is on board. Yeah. That's really important. And the other thing, which I find amazing, really, we're in a B2B world, right? And the number of people who spend time and effort identifying who to go after, where to focus, make those plans, and advertise to everyone and their mother. Let's go and advertise to everyone, which is the old B2C approach, right? I'm going to advertise to anyone and everyone because I've got this product that anyone and everyone could sell, like a pair of shoes. Brilliant, everyone could do that. In the B2B world, why would you advertise to a company that you can't sell to? It makes no sense, especially if you've taken the time to understand these are the people I can go after. So that's one thing. The other thing that frustrates me a lot is intent. If you get it wrong, it's just a load of noise. And I speak to loads of salespeople who say, yeah, I was fed intent for ages. It was nonsense. I'm not going to bother listening to those signals anymore. I'm going to do my own thing. Really simple example. If I was selling smart devices, I would want to know if someone was out there researching Apple because they sell smart devices and they can sell against it. Demandbase will sift out anything else and just deliver you, hey, there's someone who's exploring Apple technology. A lot of other intent providers out there will say, oh, Apple's, that's a signal. No, they could be looking at what orchard they're going to go to visit that weekend. What's that Apple recipe like? You know, how do I make apple crumble or whatever? That's not an intent signal, and that just annoys and upsets and wastes the time of salespeople. So intent is really important, but it's got to be relevant intent. Otherwise, you're just filling it up with noise.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And, you know, the ability for marketing to better understand where they should target their advertising budget is just hugely valuable, because they need to get results and they need to show results effectively.
And they need to prove back to the business that they're being effective, right? I think we can all acknowledge, if you're in sales and marketing, if numbers aren't being hit, if revenue's down, if your close rates are off, if your churn rates are up, whatever it may be, the business makes a decision, we're going to make cuts. It's always marketing budget that goes first, and then it's marketing heads and sales head. But then if they continue to do the wrong things, how ridiculous is that? But from a marketing perspective, if my job's at risk, I'm being seen as a cost center and I can't prove anything different, my job's at risk. So again, going back to the B2C, B2B analogy, I'm not running out of time, am I?
No.
The B2C, B2B analogy, if I do the old advertising spray and pray approach, when someone comes to me and says, how successful was your campaign? I go, yeah, it was brilliant. I got a click-through rate of 0.7%. All right, who clicked on it? I don't know. But I got a 3% increase in my website traffic. Oh, who came to your website? I don't know. Well, the pipeline's full of rubbish. It's pretty obvious where that's coming from. You're at risk, right? You're a cost center. But if you can sit there and say, well, you said those 200 companies were the most important ones for us. Over the last 3 months, we've focused just on them. We've now got 57% of them on our website. 19 of those companies got to that white paper that we said was really important to them. 5 of them are now in opportunities, which equates to a pipeline of X. You say that to someone, you're a profit center, right? And your job's going to be safe. So I think it's just a mindset. We're not a B2C, we're a B2B. We've got to act like a B2B.
Yeah, I hear you. So considering how the market's evolved and the success that Demandbase is having in region, and you're still obviously leading this mission here, what's the ambition for Demandbase's kind of continuous international growth?
It's a great question. We've probably punched above our weight in terms of the size of the team we are here, and the amount of success we've had. I firmly believe we're on the cusp of saying, right, let's double everything now. we've made a determined effort as a business to say we'll grow, but we always want to remain a profitable business. And that makes a lot of sense. And it's really unusual in this space, by the way. There's always been this, we just want to grow as much revenue as quickly as we can. And investors always used to say, right, we'll plow in on that company because it's growing massively. Then Putin invaded Ukraine and the market stopped investing. Now the only things they're investing is at companies that actually have a track record and are profitable. So from that perspective, it's really powerful. And a really sensible way of approaching it. Sometimes frustrating from a leader's perspective. You just want to go hard and fast. But actually, as you look at the results we've had year on year, it's been really a sensible way to approach it. I do feel we're on the cusp of saying, right, let's double everything next year, because internationally we have huge opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
So,
for people that are identifying companies that they may want to join, essentially it's a good time. There's a lot of exciting times ahead for you.
Yeah, it's a rapidly growing company. It's a successful company. And going back to my earlier point, how great as a salesperson going into a business knowing you can help them. And it's not a case of, God, how am I going to get this over there? Because they've already got that and it's pretty much the same product, but maybe I can knock 20% off the price. It's not that. It's a real game changer for most B2B businesses. So it's a really exciting business to be part of.
Brilliant. Just understanding a little bit more about your kind of experience of sales, and sometimes this is quite a good takeaway. Is there like a sales book or a business book that you've read that is something you always encourage salespeople to read, or you just think, I got some good value from?
That's a great question, and I never answer it with a single book, because there are so many good books out there that you can get bits and pieces from. And I would suggest read as many as you can. Going back to my dad, he gave me the How to Win Friends and Influence People
classic.
back years ago. That's a great book. I was heavily invested in Challenger. So the Challenger sales book is really good. Recent ones like Atomic Habits and The Jolt Effect. Yeah. My recommendation would be read them all. Pick the bits that work for you, because there's nuggets in all of them. I read books all the time, and I always, sometimes it's stuff you forgot. Sometimes it's stuff you didn't know, but I wouldn't put any one book ahead of another. I'd just say read as many of them as you can.
Do you think young salespeople are reading books?
I think they're listening to podcasts and things like that more. My son is an avid podcast listener, and he buys books all the time, which is really good. But then he goes and puts them on his Kindle or whatever, and doesn't actually read the paper book, but he's got them all.
Listens to it on the go.
Yeah.
In your career, what has been the traits that you've identified in like the top performing salespeople that you've just seen over and over again? And you think, wow, when those people show up with this and this, they're flying.
Yeah, I think curiosity is a really important one. An interest in business is really important. Yeah, we're selling technology and services, but you have to have an interest in business. So I think that's really important. You need to be, to an extent, self-motivated. I'm not someone that will sit on your shoulder and say, you've got to do that many calls or anything like that. So they have to have that about them. I just like nice people. I know that sounds really nothing to say, but if it's someone I genuinely get on with during the interview process, and they've got the traits that you need, or an understanding and knowledge and all that sort of stuff, that's what I put above everything else. Because at the end of the day, whether it's through Zoom, whether it's face-to-face like this, whatever, you have to be someone that people want to invite in. And I have an old adage that if I sell something to someone and a year later I'm driving past and I knock on the door and say, hey, can I pop in for a coffee? Absolutely, come in. What you did for me was really good. I don't want someone saying, no, you sold me something that wasn't a good fit, sod off. Yeah. So that's an adage that I try and, I like honest, nice people who, if it's not the right fit for someone, it's not the right fit, move away.
So true. I actually, it's been on my mind a fair amount this year. I like likability. I actually think you can develop it. Like I think you genuinely can make people feel, kind of warm around you and feel like you're giving them a good experience because you're showing up knowledgeable, you're showing interest in actually solving their problems, and you want to be helpful. Yeah. And yes, you are going to, educate them and introduce them to your product, and hopefully they're going to buy it and you're going to make a sale. Yeah. That is, of course, what we're motivated to do. but we've talked about it quite a bit in this conversation. It's got to be an enjoyable experience. I think people have to walk away from that. So that's interesting trait.
Yeah, I think if you come out of that meeting and people feel like they've been sold to for an hour, it wasn't a good meeting.
Yeah, agree. Sales has evolved a significant amount. Obviously, we had to adapt to COVID. Do you have any thoughts on where the sales profession is going in terms of how it's evolving, or what trends you're seeing?
I think the art of sales is the same as it's always been. It's that ability to understand a problem and show that you can solve it. I don't think that'll ever change. I think what's changing is all the stuff around to support it. I mean, everyone's talking about AI now, and there's some great things you can do with AI that it improves productivity. I think that's the key thing for me. Things that are manual, mundane tasks that take forever and salespeople hate doing, well, guess what? AI can do all that now. Yeah. Gives you the time to focus on the people and the problems and that sort of thing. So that will evolve. I speak to people who say, well, sales is dead. It's all going to be done online. I hope that's not right. What a boring life it would be if you bought everything online. I know we do, right? We do it day to day, but you need interactions with human beings.
Yeah, this is it. I think there has to be some joy in life, with humanity, right?
Yeah.
Spending time together.
Yeah.
And also, but the reality in B2B is B2B businesses are complex. They've got lots of technology that's been amalgamated over many, many years, lots of systems that need to interact, lots of different people, different places, different departments. So one of the things I find actually very interesting, especially in mid-size or even typically large enterprise sales, as you talked about, multiple buying stakeholders, for me, how powerful that those salespeople become when they often connect the dots more effectively than the people that work within those businesses, because they're siloed in their department, in their goals, and actually, you bring in a professional salesperson that goes and navigates around an organization and pulls it all together and then puts that message up, to a C-level executive, boom, that's super value add. And you just can't do that independently and kind of figure it out by yourselves, the buyers. So
yeah, and I think it's really interesting, and you have to be careful how you do it, but we have occasions where you'll sit there and you'll say, what do you think? You're going to do that? We'd love to do it, and we'll revisit that in 6 months, but we're building a new website at the moment. Oh, why are you building a new website? Oh, because we're not getting enough leads through the website. Are the right people coming to your website? What do you mean? Well, who's coming to your website? Oh, we don't really know. Oh, so you might have the right people on your website, you might not. Let's assume you have. That makes sense, right? Because then they're obviously not seeing the right things. What are they seeing? I don't know. So you're going to go and build a new website over the next 6 months. And it might end up that what you'll do is exactly the same problem, because the problem isn't the website's no good, there's none of the right people are coming. You really need to take a step back and understand what's going on before you do that. By the way, we can help you with that. We can help you understand, are the right people coming to your website? Because if they're not, don't build a new website, get the right people to your existing website, and that might solve your problem, or we can help with it. That's the sort of discussion I think that is really valuable, because we're not really selling them, we're helping them solve a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree. What advice would you give to salespeople to help them maintain consistency in a career which is often up and down, quite stressful? How do you just maintain that consistency in showing up and delivering?
Yeah, and that probably is the trick, right? I mean, I've been doing this for 9 years. What's nice, and I take a little bit of credit in it, but most of my sales team have been here for at least 2 years, 5 and 6 years, the majority of them. So something's working, but they try stuff, and if it doesn't work, they don't do it again, but at least they've tried something and they learn from it. And I think learning is the key to this, right? As a salesperson, you're not always going to get it right. You might lose a deal because you did something wrong, or you said the wrong thing, or you pitched it in the wrong way. That's fine. Learn from it. I'm useless at names, but Gretzky, the old ice hockey, used to say, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Have a go at stuff. Try it. And it is hard, right? I mean, I've got a really strong team of SDRs, which I think is probably the hardest bit of sales, because you get more no's than anything else. You're trying to open up doors that are firmly shut. that's a tough thing. So you need resilience. I think that's important. But again, learning from, if something works, do it. It won't work forever. It won't work on everyone. So you've got to learn and be mobile, and the ability to change as you go on. But I think resilience is a thing. Sales is tough, but it's also a lot of fun. And the rewards are there, not just in terms financially, but the reward of getting someone to say, yes, I agree with what you're saying and I want to work with you. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, feel good factor in it is phenomenal. Okay, so we're coming up to the kind of final part. Naturally, some of the important philosophy about sales confidence is the kind of mindset piece and encouraging people to kind of access their beliefs and kind of build confidence for your own way in showing up. Where have you developed your confidence? Like, how have you developed confidence in how you show up as a leader?
Confidence, I don't know. Am I confident? I don't know. I'm comfortable that what we do works, and the way I work seems to work. So I try and instill, as I say, the confidence in my team, that ability to go out and try stuff. Don't be afraid of anything, and don't take it personally if something doesn't go your way. I suppose over the years, all of those things are part of my makeup, and therefore I don't think confidence is the word I'd use, but it makes me comfortable that I'm happy doing stuff and trying stuff. And
well, the other word I often use quite simply is competence. If you know what you're doing, you feel confident. If you don't, then it's hard to actually show up. And I think sometimes for salespeople, and maybe that's where the reputation comes up, like you kind of BS around that and you get found out quite quickly. So you have to be knowledgeable.
There's nothing worse to me than a salesperson that wins a deal telling not untruths, not lying, but overselling stuff, under-delivering, because then that's not good for the customer. It's a terrible experience. It affects your relationship, your what's the word I'm thinking of, reputation, the reputation of your company, but more importantly, it throws the colleagues that have then got to try and pick up that and make it work under the bus a bit. So I will never hire a salesperson who I think is just a hard-nosed, say yes to everything to win the deal type. Some people will. To me, that's not what I want. I want to build something so that when I've got a customer, they're happy with what we've done and what we've delivered, and the salespeople feel like they've been honest and around that sort of thing. So I think that's really important.
Great. During your career, outside of Demandbase, or even during it, maybe and also your comfort level of sharing, where have you kind of faced some hardships along the way where you've had some knocks, but you've been able to navigate those and overcome those to get to kind of the outcome you wanted?
Yeah, I had a few knocks. I'm an old guy now, so I've been through the dot-com bubble and financial crashes and the COVID and the Ukraine intervention, all that sort of stuff. So I've seen a lot of it. I've been made redundant in my career. I travelled Australia for 1.5 years, which I'd recommend anyone to do at some point in their life. Not necessarily Australia, but travel. It's a great way to grow as a person and learn stuff about yourself. When I came back, recession. I couldn't get a job for love nor money. And when I did get a job, it wasn't a job I wanted. It was a job I needed. I was actually part of the team that set up the Rayco, the lottery machines. Wow. And I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. And I did that for 4 weeks just to earn some money. So yeah, I've had hardships, but I think that makes you more resilient, right? And then when you get an opportunity like comes along, you think, right, I'm going to grab that with both hands. And I think that's really important. But you've got to be prepared in life for knocks, and it's how you bounce back. Was it bounce back ability? I think that's an important trait, whatever part of life you're in. We all have knocks, and you grow from it.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, redundancies and restructuring of companies has always been around since the day companies from existence. But I do think I've spoken to so many people this year, particularly, that have gone through that, maybe for the first time, actually sometimes multiple times. Like they've joined one company to another and it's just gone like first in, first out style. So, what you're saying there really is, it can happen, and you've got to ride it out, really, ultimately. But also, you said something quite important there. Sometimes you just had to take something that to fulfill your needs, because you've got to survive, right? I guess kind of what you're saying is like, sometimes it's not the ideal next role, but you've got to be willing to kind of just get your head down and kind of navigate it in terms of getting through to the next step.
Yeah, and I also think that it's there's no contract that says you're going to make it to 80. And one of my friends died just after he got married when he was 27, so very young. And at that point forward, that's where my YOLO thing came from. There's nothing that says that I'm going to get to retirement and therefore save all my money up and do all that. I was very bad, actually. I was the opposite. Right, I've got some beer vouchers this month. I'm going to go and spend them. So I never looked, right, I must plan for when I'm 70. I'm going to enjoy life now. And I think that's a big part of it. I know I keep saying the same thing, but enjoy it, right? If you're not having fun doing something, it's not the right thing for you. Do something else.
Yeah, it's a strong message. That's a good reminder. So thank you for sharing. With kind of just like how you're making sure that you show up kind of in a sustainable way. Like, how do you just look after yourself from a well-being and like health perspective generally?
Well, as you can see, I don't. I'm only 27, so I've had a bad time of it. No, I think I'm my worst critic for that, because I'm always telling people to think about that sort of stuff, and then I don't myself so much. So I'm not as fit as I should be, but I've got a dog. I've only had a dog for the first time the last couple of years that gets me out walking every day, and that's a big thing. But yeah, I'm as I say, my thing is make sure I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and that is my well-being mentally. Physically, yeah, I probably should do more. Yeah. But as my wife says, there's always an excuse not to do something, but get on and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have any, like, if people got to the end, and I hope they have enjoyed this conversation, like final parting thoughts or comments or updates, anything you want to share?
Not really. I suppose the key is anyone's listening to this is probably an SDR or a sales or an aspiring SDR or sales. It's a great career. There's so many good things as opposed to bad things in it. I'd highly recommend it. I think just make sure you find something that you believe in. Don't join a company because they've got a great name if you don't believe in the product. I've been doing this for 9 years, and as I said to you, from the first day to now, I know that Demandbase makes some real differences to B2B businesses, and I'm comfortable that I can go in and explain them all to someone. That's gold dust, right? So try and find something like that. But if you're thinking of SDR sales career, go for it. And as soon as we have vacancies available, I'll let you know, James.
Absolutely, and we'll share those. One final question I just want to put out there, because we've worked very hard this year on like the messaging and promoting Demandbase to sales and revenue leaders. What would you say to sales leaders that are like, you know, they keep seeing Demandbase, but they haven't quite clicked into why they need to investigate it further? What's your message to them?
And that's a really interesting point, actually, because we probably have as many salespeople as marketing people using Demandbase. Marketing know us really well, sales don't. And that's probably just the way we as ourselves have marketed it. But in reality, if you are a sales leader and you have a sales team who are struggling to hit their numbers, potentially because the pipeline's full of opportunities that they can't close, they're not a good fit, it's getting stuck at certain places, you're missing opportunities that your competition are going for because you didn't know about them, Demandbase can help. If you find out that marketing are throwing you all these leads because they're advertising and marketing to companies that you can't and your sales team can't sell to, we can help them stop that.
Fantastic. There you go. We waited a long time to have this conversation, Paul. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for being on the Sales Confidence podcast. You can check out Demandbase online and obviously listen back to this show in all available sources. Thanks for being here, Paul.
Brilliant. It's been fun. Enjoyed it. Thanks, James.